it's Emily and this is going to be my May wrap up. So May was a kind of okay reading month. I read a total of 7 books, which is kind of average for me. Like, I didn't read loads, but I didn't read like nothing, so quite happy with that. I kind of felt like I was in a reading slump the whole time, but when you see that I've read 7 books, it doesn't look that way. Anyway, so first I'm going to go over some stats of the month before going over which books I read in May. So the total number of pages I read is 2,580, and over the course of 7 books that creates an average of 369 pages per book. I had a really good reading month in sense of enjoyment. My average rating was actually 4.6 out of 5, so everything I gave was like above 4 stars or above. Very happy with that. In regards to Books for the Brave readathon, I only read 2 books out of the 3 that I wanted to, however I'm still happy with those 2. Okay, so let's move on to the books. So the first book I read was Homeward Bound by Richard Smith. I'm holding up my iPad because this is what I read on. If it's an ebook then I'll read it on my iPad. I gave this 5 stars. I really loved it. I've written a review about it on my blog. What I've noticed, especially while reading this, is that I really like the sound of, or really enjoy books that have a musical theme. It was about an elderly man whose wife has recently passed away and eventually moves back into his old house. However, his daughter is not that keen on him living on his own now, so his granddaughter offers to live with him while she studies at university, and she discovers a room that's full of old records that she was never allowed to go in. She wasn't allowed to go in that room before, and so it kind of goes back and discovers his like musical past, and turns out that he was a musician in like the 60s I think, and yeah, so it was a really fun read and I loved the whole musical part of it and the relationships between the family members, so yeah, loved that one. The next book I read is Nowhere by John Robinson. I gave this 4 stars. This is the, sorry my camera just stopped recording. So yes, it's the first one in the Nowhere trilogy, and yeah, this is a fun read. It's quite thin. Yeah, I give it 4 stars. I think I've said that already, but I can't remember because my camera died. And yeah, so it kind of follows these teenagers who have been told that they're prisoners and they're sent away to a prison called Nowhere, and it literally is in the middle of nowhere. They don't know where they are, and none of them remember doing any crimes, but they're told and almost tortured into accepting that they're criminals. I don't know how to describe any more than that without giving stuff away, but it's really good. It follows a smaller group of teenagers who kind of want to break free. They want to escape from this prison and kind of tell the world about what's going on because no one seems to be looking for them. So yeah, that's that one. Really good. Recommend that. The next one is Anywhere, which is the second one in the Nowhere trilogy. This is slightly thicker but still rather thin. Yeah, so this kind of follows on from Nowhere. I don't know what to say without giving stuff away. They now want to find answers as to what is going on. The first one is about them trying to escape from this prison, and this one is more about finding answers to their questions and finding a bit more about why they were chosen to be taken, I guess. So yeah, this one I gave 4 stars. I might have said that already, but I gave this one 4 stars, and yeah, it was a really good continuation. So I forgot to mention, for the last 2, Nowhere and Anywhere, I had read them before. It was a reread. However, the third one in the trilogy, Somewhere, was not a reread. It was the first time I read it. I gave this one 4 stars as well. I found it very gripping, and especially how I didn't know what was going to happen or how it ended. So this is all kind of, everything's built up towards this book. I don't know, I literally can't say anything without giving stuff away, but it's, yeah, follows the same group of teenagers trying to figure out more about what's going on, really. That's pretty much literally all I can say without giving away spoilers for the past 2 books. But yeah, really enjoyed it and would recommend if you wanted to read a very short trilogy. The chapters are incredibly short, which I find really motivational to read, because you're like, oh, I can read another chapter really quickly. Oh, I can read that. I do recommend these, but yeah, I know they're not very popular, so liked this one. It was also a very good ending. Like, I was very satisfied with how it all wrapped up. So I read Somewhere for part of Books for the Brave, and the other book that I read for Books for the Brave is the Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This is the illustrated edition, which I kind of read along with. I also listened to the audiobook. Yeah, loved reading it, like with the illustrated edition. It was my first time ever reading it, and it made it so much better, like with the illustrations. It was a very enjoyable reading experience. I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It took me longer than I thought to read it. I was expecting a couple of days, but it took me like a week, I think. Yeah, it took me 8 days to read it. But yeah, I really did enjoy it. I don't really know what else to say. It obviously follows Harry in his 4th year at Hogwarts. I don't think there's much point in me saying what it's all about because you probably all know. I just really enjoyed it. This is one of my favourites so far. This and The Prisoner of Azkaban are my 2 favourites. Then again, I have not read the last 3 books yet, ever, so those I plan on reading soon. So yeah, that's this one. This is my next 5-star read. So the next book that I read, the 6th book in the month, is Burn by Patrick Ness. Now this is another 5-star read. I absolutely adored it. I loved it so much. Like, I was crying within the first 50 pages at like my frustration at certain events, and it was just so good. Like, it was so creative. I've also written a review on my blog about this one, which will go into more detail about why I liked it so much, but I'm already a massive fan of Patrick Ness, and when this came out I couldn't wait to get my hands on it. I already had it on NetGalley. I got approved from it like the few days before this arrived, but yeah, it's so good. It's about these, I don't know how to describe it, so I'm just going to read the description because otherwise I don't know how I'd describe this book. On a cold Sunday evening in early 1957, Sarah Dewhurst waited with her father in the parking lot of a Chevron gas station for the dragon he'd hired to help her on the farm. This dragon Casimir has more to him that meets the eye. Sarah can't help but be curious about him, an animal who supposedly doesn't have a soul but is seemingly intent on keeping her safe from the brutal attentions of Deputy Sheriff Emmett Kelby. Casimir knows something she doesn't. He has arrived at the farm because of a prophecy that involves a deadly assassin, a cult of dragon worshippers, 2 FBI agents, and somehow Sarah Dewhurst herself. I just don't know how to describe it with like the storyline. It was so action-packed, but like in a good way, and it took so many twists and turns, and my favourite thing for anyone who has read it is like Nelson. My favourite character is probably Nelson in that, and maybe Malcolm as well, but Nelson's definitely my favourite character. It was just such a great read and highly recommend it. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. And finally, the last book that I read in May is The Bad Boys Girl by Blair Holden. Now this is a book from like my early teenhood. I was going to say childhood, and then yeah, anyway. I first read this when it was on Wattpad, and that was years ago. I think I first read it when I was 14, and then I reread it when it was published, and now I've reread it again, so it's my 3rd time reading, and it's just a book that I just fall in love with every time. Like, it's just the perfect kind of romance, teen romance, like rom-com thing. I don't know if it's also just because I have that sentimental attachment to this like series, as it was kind of my first romance rom-com book thing, chick flick, I don't know, but yeah, I just love it. And even like the bonus chapters at the end where it's like Cole's point of view. Anyway, follows Tessa O'Connell, who is going into her senior year, and when she was younger there was this guy who kind of bullied her, and he comes back from like military school for her final year, and it kind of follows them. And what also I loved about this is the chapter titles. Like, I'll see if I can find one. Like, just funny sentences like girl hospitalised for checking out Colestone's chest. I asked you to make soup, not babies. My camera stopped recording again. But yes, The Bad Boys Girl. Lots of love for this. Can't remember what else I said, but it was a 5-star read. Yeah. Oh, very wonky. I'll just wrap up now before it decides to die again. So thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in a new video, which will definitely come out soon. I hope to be back on my normal uploading schedule soon. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.